In this lesson, we're going to build the carriage for our RC car. Alright, so the carriage is going to be basically just a simple piece of geometry that goes on the inside. So that way we can't necessarily just see right through the car, and if we were to have an animation that was looking down the back or from the front, we would have something there to just kind of show that this car isn't hollow inside. So to get started with this, let's go to our top view, and we're going to select a box. And I'm using the cube creation method still, and I'm going to hit F3 so I can see exactly what the width I need for this car. So I'm just going to left click and drag a box. It's about the width of the car here, and then we're going to right click and we're going to convert that to editable poly. Let's go to vertex mode by hitting 1 on the keyboard, and before we make any changes to the vertices really quickly, let's make sure that this is centered up on 0. So let's grab our move tool and let's make sure our Y is set to 0, just to make sure that that's even. Now let's select these vertices across the front, and let's scale this down. And I'm also going to bring this forward right about here where those that changes shape on the shell of the car. I'm going to take these vertices here, and I'm going to bring those forward right about to here. So that should fit right in there. Now let's go to our front view, and let's bring up the box here. So I'm going to grab this, bring it straight up right on top of that frame, and then these vertices on top, we'll bring those down, and then we'll take this set of vertices and bring those down even further, just making sure that that is inside of the car. Now in our left view, by hitting L on the keyboard, I'm going to hit Z to zoom in on that really quickly. I'm going to take all of these vertices across the top, and I'm going to scale those in. Let's do all of these at the same time. So if you want to hit F3, you can see that in the shaded view. You want to bring that in far enough, and then we'll just take these at the top and pull those all the way in there, just like so. So that way it's hidden, and we still have some geometry here on the inside that's kind of just blocking any holes that we have in our object. Now at this point I want to take the edges on the corners. Okay, so just select this edge and hit ring, and let's create a segment right across the middle. So one segment, 0 and 0 on our pinch and slide. And then we're going to go to polygon mode by hitting 4, and we're going to select that back polygon, okay, on our object. And we're going to extrude that, and I'm going to grab my move tool and move it back to right about here. Now if we go to our front view by hitting F on the keyboard, I can go to my vertex mode and just pull that down inside of the car. Now I'm going to take these points right here, I'm going to pull those forward here just a little bit, and then take this one and pull that forward too. Okay, so we got a little bit of a different shape here, and again, it's not really important for this object, it's just to kind of help out with covering up those holes on the inside. So now that we have that, let's hit F3 to go back to our shaded view, and I'm going to hit P to go to my perspective view, and I just want to see what we have at this point. Let's go ahead and take our vertices here across the bottom, and I'm going to scale those in a little bit. I want those to sit right on that frame, okay, just like so. So there we have that. It's looking pretty good, pretty happy with that up to this point. And now what I want to do is I want to create a polygon just right here for the lid for our battery box. Now I need to create a segment in here because this is just one large polygon. So I'm going to use my Swift Loop tool and create a segment right here at this point, and that should dissect right along that part of the frame. So I'm going to right click to end that Swift Loop and go to polygon mode and select just this one polygon. Let's go ahead and inset this, and let me try this one more time, getting a little bit behind that reference image along the bottom there. And we'll inset this a little bit, and I'm going to hit Alt Q because this is going to isolate our object, and this is going to make things a little bit easier. Sometimes those reference images can just get in the way. So I'm going to hit OK, and I'm going to grab my scale tool and scale that in the Y, just to kind of create the shape or the size of that lid for the batteries. Now let's convert our selection from a polygon to edge. So hold down Control and go to edge mode, and then we're going to chamfer that. Okay, and whenever we chamfer this, it's going to create some segments or a set of polygons right there. So I'm going to bring that in and just hit OK. And let's go to polygon mode again by hitting 4 on the keyboard, and let's select just this one, hold shift, and then select the next one. That'll select that loop polygons. And Then we're going to extrude that in a negative direction to create that groove that we would see between the main part of the carriage and the lid. So now that I have that, let's talk about smoothing out this object and smoothing out the edges. Okay, just in case our camera happened to see the underside of our RC car here. So I'm going to select all of these edges right here along the bottom. I'm going to use chamfer, and I'm going to use 2 segments on this because it's going to create a little bit more of a roundness across the bottom. Spread that out just a little bit more, and then we'll hit OK. Now, whenever you use chamfer, you need to be careful of topology that may have been created inadvertently. So what we want to do is we want to stitch this back up. So if I go to vertex mode, I'm going to right click and use target weld, and I'm going to target weld all of these vertices back together. Okay, so I'm basically just getting rid of all of that. So it's one continuous line, and then we have this that was a result of our inset that we did before. Let's do the same thing on this side. So it's basically taking all of these right here and stitching those back to these. So stitch that there and across, and then this one's going to go to here and then to here. Alright, so now we have quads all the way across our geometry. Now we could go ahead and we could round out the rest of these if we wanted to, but I think we're pretty good at this point. Let's go ahead and select this bottom polygon and hold Control and convert that selection to edge, and we'll chamfer the bottom lid here. Okay, let's take our amount down a little bit, and we'll hit OK. So now we have that. Let's go ahead and get the switch or the lever that's going to hold that box shut. So we're going to come in and we're going to create a cylinder in our front view by hitting F on the keyboard. I'm going to hit F3 so I can see this. And I'm going to create a cylinder right here. Okay. And I'm only going to use half of it. Let me create that fully. Sorry about that. So a radius of 1, and let's do a height of 0.5 just to get us started. I'm going to pull that up to here to where these vertices are matching right up against that lid. Okay. And then I'm going to create a copy of this cylinder by holding down Shift and dragging it out this way. And we'll hit OK. Now I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees along that x-axis, so that way the bottom of this is resting right up against that lid. Now let's convert both of these to editable poly by right-clicking, convert to editable poly, and I'm going to go to vertex mode, and I'm going to pull this down, this set of vertices down, just to make that a little bit thicker. And then on this one, I need to create a segment across the middle on both of these, so that way I can get rid of this topology across the top, or this geometry across the top. So I'm going to hit P on the keyboard, go to my perspective view, and I'm going to hit F3 so we can see this shaded. And let's go to vertex mode. I'm going to select this vertex and this one on this side and hit connect. That's going to create a segment right there. Let's do the same thing on this side and connect. And then we're going to take all of the vertices across the top and just simply delete those off. Okay. So there we go. Now, what I want to do at this point is I want to take this part and I want it to attach to this part here. Now, if you'll notice, my polygons aren't matching up. I've got a segment right here in the middle where it should be matching right here. Let me hit V on the keyboard. This is going to bring up our viewports menu, and I'm going to hit bottom so I can see this. Now, you'll notice that this is a little off, so let's kind of rotate in that a little bit, and let's hit V and then bottom again, and that should straighten itself out. Now, I want this to be centered up right here. Okay, so I'm going to take this guy right here, I'm going to pull it down just a little bit to where the grid line is right there in the middle. Now, if you don't know the keyboard shortcut for grid, it's G on the keyboard. All right, now let's take this object, and I'm going to rotate it. I'm going to turn off my angle snap because it's not going to give me the exact angle that I need, but I'm going to rotate it around to where these sides are vertical. Okay. So now let's go ahead and go back to our perspective view. I'm going to hit F3 so I can see this. And with this object selected, let's hit Z to zoom in on that and select this polygon, and we'll have to select this polygon. But they're not of the same object, so we need to attach those. So let's attach those together. Turn off attach, and let's go back to polygon mode by hitting 4 on the keyboard and select both of those now. And let's use bridge. Okay, that's going to create a segment between the two, and we'll hit OK on that. So now we've got the start of our switch here. Now I can select this polygon, and we're going to use Inset to create kind of a rim there for our extrusion for our screw to fit into. So I'm going to extrude this in a negative direction, hit OK. And then now what we can do is apply Turbo Smooth. Now before I do that, I need to make sure that this polygon right here is set into quads. So I need to create two polygons out of this. Okay, so I'm going to go to vertex mode, and I'm going to right click and use cut. I'm going to go from this vertex up to the center of that edge and then right click. Let's do it on the other side as well. So left click on this vertex and then left click on this edge up here at the top and then right click to end that cut. Now let's go ahead and apply Turbo Smooth, and you'll see that that rounds out and looks nice and neat. Now really quickly, let's show end result. Let's take care of that polygon across the top. Just select it and hit delete, as we don't necessarily need that. The same thing here as well. Okay. Now with this, let's go back to Turbo Smooth, and turn off Isoline Display, or turn it on. And then let's go ahead and show end result and add some loops in this to kind of harden up our shape a little bit. So go to edge mode, just so you can see that original cage. Make a cut here and here on that outside, and then on the inside we'll make one cut. Okay, just like so. We could also make a cut across the top, just kind of harden that up, but because we don't have any polygons across the top of that and it's open, we're okay. Alright, so that should be pretty good. I like the way that's smoothed out. Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll leave that just the way it is. Let's turn off edge mode. Let's change its color so we can see that a little bit easier and apply our materials. Let's do the same thing for this one as well. And that's for the carriage. So now that we have those applied, now we can take one of the screws. So I'm going to take the screw that we put right up here on our object, and I'm going to hold Shift, drag that out here, and hit OK. And then I'm going to simply use Align with it still selected, and align it to our switch. I'll hit OK, and then let's put this into position, and we'll rotate it with angle snap turned on this time. Rotate it 90 degrees, and then I'll put it into position and scale it down. So scale it in all three directions, and then just fit that inside of your switch there. So there we go. So now we have the switch to that, and you'll notice it's not really over the top of that there, so let's make sure that it's crossing over that extrusion there. So now we've built our carriage that's going to fit on the inside. We've built our switch with our for our battery box, and now we don't have to worry about any camera shots that are going to be looking down through there and it's just hollow inside. So it's just a quick way of hiding any geometry that isn't necessarily modeled to full detail. So now in the next lesson, what we're going to do is we're going to get into starting to connect all of these pieces together, because we've created our frame and we've got our suspension and almost everything's modeled on this. We just need to start getting everything together and assembled. So in our next lesson, we're going to start building out these spring connectors. So I'll see you then.